How's it going, guys? My name's Adam. Welcome to Driven Nashville. Let's get started on this beautiful 458 Ferrari. Brian, go ahead and roll that montage. How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Brian always kills that front montage. So this is one of my all-time favorite vehicles. Now, why do I love the 458 Spider specifically? Well, one, it's a hardtop. So when it goes down, it looks like it's a coupe. Love that. Doesn't add that much weight. This car's around 3,070 pounds roughly without the Spider. You do add some extra weight with it. Drops the 0 to 60, by the way, down to 3.3 instead of 3.0. Now, the reason why you're going to want to buy this particular car is because of the 4.5 liter V8 naturally aspirated flat plane crank engine that makes 562 horsepower and just around 400 foot-pounds of torque. Now, this engine is mostly hidden because obviously it's got the Spider, but the coupe does have a nice glass piece, so it's one benefit in addition to the lower 60 times and also the lower weight. But this engine, guys, revs to 9,000 RPMs and is absolutely the piece de resistance of buying this car. It has a 7-speed dual clutch that is one of the best clutches in the business. When you put this car in automatic mode, as you're gonna see in the POV Drive here coming up, I'm telling you, it drives better than most Camrys. It's just butter and it's wonderful. And it also is pretty good on fuel economy because it'll low rev. However, when you go and you get into the paddles, oh my God, when this thing starts banging through the gears in race mode, unbelievable experience. You're gonna love it. Spotlight the whole car today. I'm going to go through the spec with you to tell you a few things you're going to want to look out for if you're looking to buy a 458. Now, guys, it's October of 2020 right now, okay? We are heading into a recession. If not, we're already in a recession, right? The Fed's getting ready to raise rates again for like the 4th time this year. So the bottom line is cars like this are going down in value because of that, okay? So these cars used to be over $300,000 not that long ago in 2022. Well, guess what? Now you can pick these up in the mid 200s, which is a huge decrease in value. And think about it. What cars are going to go down in history for Ferrari as being truly great? Think about it. Is a 458 with a naturally aspirated engine like this going to go down in history as one of the all-time great Ferraris? Absolutely. This is going to go down with the 355. This is going to go down with the F430, right? Now, we reviewed the F8. I'll put a little link here so you can check that out. I love that car, don't get me wrong. I think looks-wise, it looks a little bit better than the 458, but here's the problem. It's twin turboed, it sounds like a vacuum cleaner when you're on the gas, and it's got so much damn torque that you can't even use the thing anywhere on the streets, because if you do, it's just gonna kick traction control in the entire time. So while it's faster and looks better, it loses so much of the soul and so much of the fun factor that this car has. At the end of the day, it has a little bit more character, and you can actually use the darn thing on the street and have some fun. So hopefully you'll enjoy this review. That's my introduction. Sorry for rambling on. I just have a lot I want to say about this particular car. And let's get into the interior, shall we? All right, honestly, before I get into the interior, let me just go ahead and call out the elephant in the room. This does have 22-inch Forgiato wheels on the back. These are obviously aftermarket wheels. These are, I think, 2-piece wheels. These are not cheap wheels, by the way, and it has 21 wheels in the front. This car also has a carbon fiber wrap which is going to be covering this whole piece here. And when the roof is up, which we'll show you here in a minute on the demonstration of how that works, it also has that wrap extended. Now the wrap, I don't mind. The wheels you can take or leave. Since we're talking about the interior here, guys, this has the carbon fiber racing seats. These are upgraded seats. They had a couple of options you could get on a 458, the Daytona seats, the stock seats, and then these are the carbon buckets. These are the ones you're going to want to get. They're not fixed like they are in McLaren's when you get the Sena seats. We just did the 600 LT review, right? And they're also not fixed like carbon buckets from Porsche. So you can actually adjust them. Brian, come over here. You can adjust them right here, which these are actually fairly comfortable seats, guys. And boy, do they hug you well. And just look at them, they look awesome. Color contrast stitching throughout the car. So overall, the spec on the inside is not the highest spec, because the thing is, and this is something to be mindful of, guys, when you're speccing yours or you're looking to buy one aftermarket, because you obviously can't spec it anymore. You can go ahead and upgrade all of the trim in this car with carbon fiber. So you can have all of this carbon fiber, all of this and this and this carbon fiber. Now this does have the upgraded steering wheel, the Scuderia steering wheel, right, which goes ahead and gives you a rev indicator here. So when we're driving and doing our point of view drive here in a minute, it's so cool to watch the red lights go up. And definitely try to get one with your, get one that has this wheel, okay? Otherwise though, the spec is nice in here. You know, it still is pretty modern. Everything's very driver focused in here. And overall, I think you're really gonna like it. Now, one of the interesting details of this car that I think is kind of interesting, right? Let me grab the key real quick. So, it has an old-fashioned key, interestingly enough. You have to go ahead and insert it into the car and then go ahead and put the car in engage the electronics, right? You put your foot on the brake, and when you want to start it, you got to push this button right here. And then that engages the engine. Now this is a stock exhaust, believe it or not, but listen to this thing. Unbelievable. This thing sounds incredible. It is not just the best sounding Ferrari I've ever heard, it's the best sounding car I've ever heard, right? Unbelievable. It's been a few years since I heard what a 4.5 liter flat plane crank V8 sounds like. I mean, the only car that's even close these days, I would say, being 2022, is Corvette. And they just came out with that wonderful V8 that's also a flat plane crank, right? But overall, guys, the engine is incredible, and I like the interior. Really, there's nothing else to discuss. Hopefully that helps. You know, before we take our point of view drive, guys, I want to just point out a couple of things about the exterior styling of this car. Pininfarina here has got his name on it. This is the company that designs it, right? Go ahead and check out their website. They actually have a really cool website. You can see here, this is all open as well. You have a really awesome open air down here and then a really cool diffuser. You can find some of these cars that have all this in carbon as well. Notice the quad exhaust here. This was actually slightly smaller than these two on the outside. It's a really cool design feature. And then also here you have some nice air inlets for the engine so that help it cool. And I just think these lights have aged so well, guys. As you come around here, you have the gas tank as well. You have the Ferrari shields. Definitely make sure you get yours with the painted shields. They look awesome. Not a cheap spec for those, or they're not a cheap upgrade. The lights here, super modern with the turn indicators. They've kept this look. They've just been slowly restyling it with the newer ones, but I think the lights have aged really, really well. The one thing that you might be like, doesn't look as good as the newer ones. You know, the newer ones have kind of added more air from here into here and then restyled all of the front here. I always thought this was kind of weird to have the prancing horse just literally floating there essentially. And then these do kind of move a little bit with airflow and whatnot. And a lot of cars you'll find have these in carbon fiber. This one does not. So this is probably a little bit of a lower spec on the exterior with all the right upgrades on the interior, like the carbon seats. Overall though, I think the spec is great and I really like it. So hopefully that helps a little bit if you're looking to buy one of these. Guys, one of the best parts about having a mid-engine car like this is you have a pretty darn large front engine, or front trunk here, excuse me, not front engine, front trunk, which this is actually large enough to put a couple of overnight bags, and you could easily take a road trip in this car. And let me tell you, with the magnetic suspension, this car actually doesn't beat you up too bad. Even with these 21 and 22 inch wheels, it's actually fairly comfortable. So this is a really practical car that I think you and your wife could absolutely enjoy on a nice trip. And real quick, guys, if you're curious how to get the roof to go up and down, it is this button right here. Let's go for a little point of view drive, shall we? Just turned it on. Engine start. This is your Manatino button right here. This stands for little button. And we're gonna start off in sport mode. And then when we get out into the country, we're gonna go ahead and do race mode. To engage this car, it's a dual clutch. It will not go anywhere unless you put your foot on the gas. All you got to do is flip the paddle and you're good to go. Now, I'm going to attempt to do this part of this review with the top down just because it's such a beautiful day. If we do have to put the top up, I'll go ahead and make that change. So we'll keep the windows down, or excuse me, the windows up, and let's get into this. You know, immediate first impressions, it's unbelievably easy to drive this car for an exotic supercar like this, right? We're in 7th gear right now. It's in automatic, and it's just babying along. It's very quiet in here. You're getting max fuel economy. So if you just want to daily drive an exotic car, this is going to be very, very high on the list, guys. Hey guys, I just want to share, you know, when you're driving around town, you know, we're in Hendersonville and there's very few good roads in Hendersonville, so I've got to get to a good road to demonstrate this car. But when you're just buttering around town here, the Ferrari is unbelievably compliant, fun and effortless, and it doesn't feel like an aggressive mid-engine car. The suspension in sport mode is not beating me up. The steering has a little bit of give to it. It's not overly heavy. You know, the transmission shifts smooth, doesn't feel clunky or jerky. The carbon ceramics, while they're a little bitey, they're not unbelievably difficult to modulate in traffic. So overall, I'd say if you're looking for a car that you could daily drive and also take to the track and have a blast with, this car is going to check both of those boxes exceedingly well. Well, I tell you what, your neighbors are definitely know you're having some fun. This car is loud, but it sounds amazing. It really, really does. Boy, on some back roads on a nice country day like today, you know, 70 degrees, hard to beat, guys. Just listen to that engine scream. My God. That is what dreams are made of, boys and girls. V8 Ferrari engines. That is the reason why you buy this car. A lot of power for the street, though. You really got to be careful. But it's pretty amazing. Boy, I tell you, the mid-engine, it's so flickable. It's so capable, way more than I can do on the street here. Especially on these roads. Still a lot of fun though. Just listen to that engine. It sounds incredible. You know, even though this transmission's almost 10 years old, this still feels as good as most of the dual clutches I've driven today. Is it as good as PDK? Probably not, but it's damn close. And that in itself is impressive in my opinion. Listen to that engine backfiring. God, it sounds so good. I know the microphone never picks it up like I'm hearing it, but boy, is it loud and visceral. Gotta say, the brakes, they feel incredible. Very, very capable. You can easily slow this car down if you have to in a hurry. They are carbon ceramics. They do make a little bit of squealing, so that is a fact. Similar to Porsche there with their PCCBs. Yeah, it's a good time, guys. It's a really, really good time, I gotta say. In track, it shifts a little bit more violent, although the steering and the way the engine sounds really hasn't changed. It might have changed up the fueling a little bit. It does feel a little bit more ready to go when I give it the gas, which makes sense. But overall, wow. I feel like I can't even push this car hardly at all on the street. You know, for being an almost 10-year-old car, it is one hell of a capable machine. I mean, really, it really is, guys. Have a little bit of fun with it though, you know? Like right there, you can short shift it. You don't always have to be running it out, you know, to 9,000 RPMs if you don't want to. You know, do make note that the paddles are on the steering column, they're not on the wheel, right? So if you're in a turn lock to lock and you want to shift, you are gonna have to move your hands. I personally don't like that. I prefer them on the steering wheel. Most race cars of the world are going to have them on the steering wheel because if you're in a turn, you know, you want to be able to have full control without moving the placement of your hands. But overall, guys, a really, really fun car. It feels great. It's just capable, you know, shifts fast, great brakes, all the maneuverability in the world. I mean, you feel like you have total control. Honestly, this is probably one of the best cars I've ever reviewed. I just got to be honest. When you lay into that gas pedal and you feel and you hear that engine, unbelievable, unbelievable. One of the things that I've noticed driving this car around is there's very little rattling, and it just feels really high quality. I mean, we've been on some terrible back roads. We're on these 21, 22-inch, you know, wheels, and I gotta say, like, this car I haven't heard any creaking or rattling. I was in the F8 not long ago doing that review, and that thing had an audible rattling going on in the glass or engine bay, somewhere in there, in that rear area where the mid-engine is, and it drove me crazy, you know, at certain harmonics. You know, I was in the McLaren 600 LT last week, right? And that thing drove me crazy because it had the heat shields. But this thing, just driving it along, whether I'm babying it or I'm going for it, it just feels really well built, really well put together. And maybe this is just a special car, or maybe the owner's already fixed a lot of the knickknacks, but from what I can tell, it just feels well built. If you guys didn't notice, all of your controls are on the steering wheel. So if you want to make a left turn, you got to push the button right there. Right turn right here. You want to change your modes, your windshield wipers, your dampener settings. I'm going to go ahead and put the dampener settings on bumpy road. So we were actually in the harshest mode. That's interesting. So it does have bumpy mode setting. So we were actually just in the worst mode, and I got to be honest, it didn't feel that bad. Well, guys, if you made it this far into the video, sincerely appreciate you watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the point of view drive. Let me just sum it up. I think this is one of the best cars Ferrari's ever made, period. Right? You got that incredible engine, you've got a great dual clutch, you got classic looks, mid-engine. It's the right mix of old school soul and new school performance. I think with the recession that we're currently in, and as the Fed keeps raising rates, prices of these are dropping. I think you can find a really low spec for probably around 200 to 230, and a really good spec between 240 and 280, you know, with some carbon fiber and some nice upgrades. So that's a lot different than where we were even 6 or 7 months ago when these things were going for well into the 300s. So that's a great deal and a great news, I'd say, for you guys. And frankly, it's just a lot of car for the money. This is what we call a free car at the end of the day. If you can buy a car like this for $220, put a few thousand miles on it, keep it nice, right? And then sell it for what you paid or even more in the future as we head into more of an EV world, free car, right? Can't beat that. And there's so few cars out there that are like that. There's always gonna be a guy like me who wants to have a 458. This is probably one of the cars that I wanna have in my collection. And that's not gonna change because the new ones are twin turbo, the new ones are hybrid, right? They're just not like the old school ones. And in so many ways, guys, this is a better car than the F8. It's a better car than the SF90, which we haven't reviewed yet, but I have had the pleasure of driving in one. It sounded like a vacuum cleaner. Don't get me wrong, it was unbelievably fast, right? I mean, 900 horsepower, whatever. But it just lacked a lot of the soul that this thing has, and I actually have more fun driving this. So that's my conclusion, guys. Hope you learned something. Hope this video helped you. If you're interested in the content, please subscribe. Want to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, automotivetouchup.com. If you actually need paint touch-up for a Ferrari, this is one of the very few companies that can do it for you. When you go on their website, find your exact paint code and order it, they will make it specifically and mix it specifically for your needs. Almost exact match OEM grade paint. Very, very few companies can do that, and we really appreciate their support of the channel. That's it for us. The last shot's probably a drone flyaway, and we will see you on the next review. Have a great day.